Pradaksina, Prasawiya, Tawaf at the Equinox. The ancestors of the Indonesian nation, the Brahmin, was called by European historians as Brahmanism, before Veda was written. They were the Saka, the Aryans who brought their Dharmic original teachings outside the archipelago which underlies the birth of Buddhism, Hinduism and Jainism. The Dharmic, Brahmin teachings brought by the Arya Kakya, Saka, were our ancestors long before and later led to the emergence of interpretations of the Vedic scriptures that gave birth, Aranyaka and Upanishad, Veda, to be studied and interpreted freely. This freedom led to the emergence of several different teachings and schools. In 563 to 483 BC, was born Siddhartha Gautama, the figure of Buddhism. In the years 549 to 477 BC, was born Mahavira figure, Jainism. In the 9th century AD, the British era in India was born of teachings that did not come from a founder or one point in time as other teachings to distinguish neither the two before nor Islam, based on Vedic. In Svarnadvipa Indonesia in an even older era, long before the Vedic era 6500 BC there was a teaching that was adopted, namely, Dharma. The original teachings of the archipelago, the Saka of our ancestors, this is where the main basic source of the original Dharmic teachings. The original teaching of the archipelago, Dharmic, is perfectly preserved in Bali, depicted on the site of Wana Chaka Phala which is now published as Borobudur. Everything is not based on the teachings that were born in India but on the basis of it. In the figure of the bas-relief of Borobudur which is closed on panel number 43, a building is depicted in the form of a typical archipelago roof. The inscription on the edge of the frame reads, Mahetsakya. The greatest contribution of the Aryans to civilization was the introduction of the concept of Dharma. This is the concept of the teachings of the archipelago's ancestors, which were depicted in Borobudur, starting in Svarnadvipa until now they are perfectly preserved in Bali. His teaching, Dharmic original, was taken outside the archipelago, recorded on the bas-reliefs of Borobudur with the literary text of the word, Kusaladharmabhajana. Dharma is presented as a central concept used to explain the higher truth, or ultimate reality of the universe. This is the philosophy of our ancestors. Nusantara Indonesia in the former Svarnadvipa is the location where the teachings of Dharma originated in learning. Check out this academic review. Chinese pilgrims from Fa-Huan 337-422, add to I-Tshing in the 7th century AD visited the Indonesian archipelago to learn. Copying many notes about Dharma or Dhamma were brought to their countries, not bringing Buddhism from their country spread over here. Travel notes of Xuanzang or Haiyan. Sang 602-664, add by Samuel Beale in 1884 and Fa-Huan Travel Notes 337-422, add from Chinese text by James Legge, which was translated and annotated by Korean recension. Travel records of Xuanzang, Haiyan. Sang 602-664, add by Samuel Beale in 1884. Written. Southwest of the city 8 or 9 li is a rock that resides in Naga. The Tathagata leaves its shadow here. This is tradition, no shadow remains visible. It's equinox. On the side of the city is the old Sangharama, which has only the foundation walls. It is here that the Dharmapala Bodhisattva refutes the arguments of the heretics. Beside it is a stupa built by the king, about 200 feet high. There is a stupa, disciples who suffer from disease, by praying here most of them are healed. Near this is the mark of the Tathagata walking to and fro. It's Pradaksina, Prasawiya, Tawaf at the equinox location of the Muara site. To the east there is Sangharama and in the middle of the Amra forest is an old foundation wall. This is where the Bodhisattva Asa Asga composed the sastra called Hinyong Shing Kiao. It is the old foundation remains of the ruins of Dharmapala University, to the east of the site, the area which is also seen I-Tshing 7th century AD. Dharmapala University branched out in Bihar, India, Nalanda, and in Javadvipa namely Wana Chaka Phala now published as Borobudur. This is a historical fact. The travel notes of Fa-Huan 337-422, add translated and annotated by Korean a recension of the Chinese text by James Legge. What Fa-Huan saw on his way in Svarnadvipa was recorded. By going on a large merchant ship, Fa-Huan arrived and was and lived here for 2 years. He wrote copies of holy books, sutras. He also saw from a distance of 10 paces, it was seen that the statue with its golden pattern was displayed clearly and brightly. What Fa-Huan saw was a statue of gold plywood. Among the people who have come here say that the 1,000 students have taken oaths, graduations, here all have left their shadows. To the east there is Sangharama, and in the middle of the Amra forest is an old foundation wall. This is where the Bodhisattva Asa Asga composed the sastra called Hinyong Shing Kiao. Following the Po Nai River is the Panai River, Kampar. In a place where the students had lived and made a turn-around motion. Around the tope stupa are also 4 teachers sitting in 4 corners. In this place the tower has been erected in honor of Sariputra. It is Pradaksina, Prasawiya, Tawaf in Muara Takus. Southwest of the city 8 or 9 li is a rock that resides in Naga. The Tathagata leaves its shadow here. This is tradition, no shadow remains visible. Pay attention to the words on the notes that are meant to be Fa-Huan. The Tathagata leaves its shadow here. It is tradition that no shadow remains in sight. The location that Huan sang means is the equinox only at the Muara Takus site. This nearby 200-foot-high stupa is a sign on which the Tathagata walks to and fro. It is the site of the Muara Takus, where the Brahmins perform the Dharmic ritual of holy movements around objects, which later was named Pradaksina, Prasawiya, Tawaf. Fa-Huan's point is, he saw a group of people without a visible shadow. This is the scholar Brahman is in a location in this area even today. If the object body during the day is right under the sun, then shadow, the object will be right at the point where the object is located and produce no effects with shadow or equinox. The Chinese pilgrim I-Tshing, 635–713, left his country for an area called Kin Chio, Kinti Tanah Emas Svarnadvipa, former Indonesia. Chinese records mention Srivijaya as Fo Che, Boha, Boga, or the Chinese version of Che Li Fo Che. The city of Boga is the holy city, the center of Dharmic learning in the long before the birth of Siddhartha Gautama, the figure of Buddhism. From 563 to 483 BC, the figure of Jainism, Mahavira from 549 to 477 BC, and the figure of the Rishi, master, Dharmic. After the Veda was written in India, it was recorded, among others, Dharmadasa 700 to 620 BC, Dharmapala 670 to 580 BC, Sanjaya Balathapada 6 BC. Sariputra 568 to 484 BC. Svarnadvipa Dharmakirti 610 BC 520 BC. There were 2 names at different times. Kumarila Bhatta 1, 618–540 BC. Adi Sankara 569 to 537 BC. Kri Janayasa Dapunta Hyam 7th century AD. Rezi Markandeya 9th century AD. Pay attention. These are the areas that Chinese pilgrims visit to study and see and then write down. The holy city with its landmark, Muara Takus site, through which the equinox traverses. This point or area, Tanpa shadow, proves that the word Ceylon, found in books including the book Mahavamsa, is not Sri Lanka at this time, but is located in Kampar Riau Sumatra Indonesia, the complex area of early Dharmic teaching and learning education. Quote, equinox is an astronomical phenomenon, where the sun crosses the equator. Periodically occurs twice a year on March 21st and September 23rd. The sun is at the equinox or right on the equator. The length of day and night is the same 12 hours. When the equinox phenomenon takes place, the sun and earth have the closest distance, so as a consequence the tropical area around the equator will get maximum solar radiation, because it will be right on the equator, at the equator where the meridians intersect, namely places with 0 degrees longitude and 0 degrees latitude, or the coordinates of the north latitude 0 degrees, not only the cities that are crossed by the equator, but can occur in cities that are between 23.4 south latitude and 23.4 north latitude. Is this location Palembang or Ceylon, Sri Lanka? Let's take a look. Palembang is located at 2 degrees 59 minutes 27.99 seconds LS 104 degrees 45 minutes 24.24 seconds BT. The area of Palembang city is 400.61 square kilometers, with an average height of 8 meters above sea level. Islands and areas in Indonesia that are crossed by the equator. In Sumatra, The equator stretches from the waters of North Sumatra, West Sumatra, Riau Islands, Lingga Island, Batu Islands, north of Tanimasa Island, Palembang not included. West Kalimantan, Central Kalimantan, East Kalimantan, Central Sulawesi, Kiowa Islands, South Halmahera Regency, North Maluku, Gibe Island, Tengah, Waigeo Island or also known as Ambari or Waiju Island, the Raja Ampat Islands located in the north of West Papua Province. Karamata Strait, Makassar Strait, Tambu Bay and Tammany Bay, Sulawesi, Maluku Sea, and Halmahera Sea. Is the location of this equinox in Ceylon, Sri Lanka today as other historians claim. Let's take a look. Sources. Shodhganga, Lanka, is the name of the area mentioned in the Kavyamimamsa from the 10th century Rajasekara. In Ramayana, Kavyamimamsa Rajaikara and Balaramayana, the description of this island does not support its identification with Ceylon or beyond Sri Lanka. This island is located on the west side of the peninsula. This is the island, while Sri Lanka is on its eastern side. Hypothetical literacy as well as place location and name Lanamaka is a Sanskrit technical term used in ancient Indian sciences such as astronomy, mathematics and geometry. Lanka at the equator where the meridians intersect, that is, the place with longitude 0 degrees and latitude 0 degrees or latitude 0 degrees near it, is that the sun is in the equinox position just above the object on Earth, resulting in the object having no shadow. Sri Lanka coordinates. This location is at 10.279.2 left pointing arrow right pointing arrow 82.35.5 map center 0.7 degrees 51 and 80 degrees 45. E. 7.85 degrees north 80.75 degrees east. Colombo City 6 degrees 56.04. N. 79 degrees 50 minutes 34 seconds east, 6.93444 degrees north 79.84278 degrees east. In summary, the north latitude of Sri Lanka is between 6 degrees 7 degrees, this is not the equinox, or is not a location where there is a no shadow effect. So in Sri Lanka at this time it is not an area where an equinox is traversed. Based on the results of measurements and research by J.W. Iserman assisted by Delprat in 1889, 0 degrees 21 LU is the position of equinox. Astronomically the site of Muara Takus, Kampar Riau, Indonesia is located on the line which is meant, without the shadow, here that is correct. So astronomically the site, Muara Takus, is located on the equator coordinates 0 degrees 21 N and 100 degrees 39 east longitude, 0.09 east longitude, this is where the shadowless area is. Equinox. The shadowless point at Muara Takus site, Kampar Sumatra Indonesia, visited by Chinese pilgrims from Fa-Huan 337-422 AD to I-Tshing in the 7th century AD. Coming to study, copying lots of notes on Dharma or Dhamma, carried over to his country, not bringing the teachings of Buddhism from his country to spreading here. This proves that the word Ceylon, found in books including the book Mahavamsa, is not Sri Lanka at this time, but is in Kampar Riau Sumatra Indonesia. By Santosaba.